Hello everyone, and welcome back to Confronting Chaos, a series of smaller videos to serve as partners to Chaos Fight videos to help you understand enemy gimmicks, dangerous moves, and why synergy characters are synergy. In this video, I'll be going over the Jack character event Chaos Fight, so with the introduction out of the way, let's get into it. The first wave is against two Krakens, the second wave is against two Flutter jellies. For being a first wave boss, the Krakens are actually kinda deadly. They'll both open up with Group Waterga, which can get them to about 20k bravery quickly, especially if someone gets broken. They only have 2 HP attacks, but they are very willing to use them, which is especially annoying because after each 1 second turn it'll use Unbind, which makes it go faster. It's very simply put, don't get broken. It's a good idea to actually focus on one if possible, just so you have less continuous attacks to worry about. The Flutter Jelly is a unique boss for this fight. They have an assortment of brave attacks, half of which can debuff the target in some way. It's not weak to any elements, but is immune to speed down. However, that's actually kind of invalidated by its unique gimmick. Every so often, one of them will concentrate. Which one concentrates flips back and forth during the fight. The next move it'll do is Spinning Blades, which is a group attack with an HP hit that also cleanses any non-frame debuffs. However, if it's still concentrating, it'll instead use Spinning Blades Plus, which is a stronger version that will cleanse frame debuffs. It'll stop concentrating after about 4 total actions, including the other jelly's actions. While it's concentrating, it cannot be delayed via extra delay mechanics such as from Leo's Master Blade or Ishtala's Stone, but it can be delayed normally from getting broken. With the enemies out of the way, let's analyze the boosted characters for this fight. Jack is all about melee damage and has turn control elements and follow-up attacks in his kit, similar to Noctis. His S1 is single target while his S2 is a group target, both of which have high overflow and do extra increased damage with criticals. His EX cast drops him to 1 HP, but he'll have perfect evasion for 1 turn starting from base EX 2 of 3, with a unique buff that'll give him HP regen based on how much damage he deals in a turn. EX plus 0 of 3 gives him a free skill use after EX cast, while 2 of 3 lets him start off with a full EX gauge and also gives him a last stand effect at 50% HP. Overall, he's pretty great, albeit coming at the tail end of a bunch of other strong melee units. Ramza gets his realization on this banner and it brings him up to speed and then some for Chaos. He can apply generic max bravery, attack, and brave regen buffs to the party, and on himself, he can apply further auras for max bravery, attack, and then also initial bravery. At 3 stacks of Shout, his HP 3+ move does not increase turn count, making it very good to keep turn count low for tight missions. It also works well with his EX, which is base slightly fast recast. His realization improves his EX cast at every limit break, adding things like splash damage, increased party battery, debuffing all enemies, and extending his shout buff, giving him even more longevity. Ignis is a support in this batch, and he's a good, hard-working boy. He switches between 2 modes with his food buff, the defensive pastry mode, which regens party HP and grants immunity to debuffs, and the offensive bowl mode, which increases party attack and overflow. He also further increases party max bravery and attack with his skill 1 buff, which I personally treat more like an emergency heal due to few use counts, and using his skills at all do not add to turn count. Both these buffs are framed and sit in his own buff slots, so he plays very well with other buffers for himself and for the party. His EX is not available on this banner. Since this is a character event, the Lost Chapter synergy unit is Sync. She has a stacking debuff she applies via all her moves, and using a plus version of a skill will consume the debuff from any enemies that are hit. She can delay, party battery into a launch, and has high overflow on her plus skills. However, her EX cast is pretty slow, and as a damage unit, she wants 3 of 3 to really function. Not the easiest decision to make, given other contemporary options. The lack of resistances or weaknesses means you're free to use basically whatever summon you want depending on your strategy. In my initial runs, I was trying for high regen, no weakness strats, so I equipped Leviathan because I was assuredly going to get hit by HP damage. But brothers, Ifrit, again, whoever works with your team should be fine. The same can be said for the friend unit, since they don't have any attack type resistances or weaknesses. The main thing to keep in mind is the fact that during concentration, the Flutter Jelly cannot be extra delayed, so the likes of Aleos and Araneas shouldn't target whichever one is doing that if possible. As for the team I chose, here's the breakdown. I like to use boosted characters where I can, so I've got Ramza and Ignis in my party. Ramza with his EX plus limit breaks feels very efficient, but he's definitely more of a support rather than a shaving character. HP 3+ is only 1 hit, Brave 3+ is only 2 hits, and until 3 of 3 his EX cast is still only the normal 2 hits. The battery numbers he can put out are really good, but of course the values you see in the fight are inflated thanks to his boosted stats. being able to do an action without using up a turn is definitely something useful for Chaos fights. The same applies to Ignis, really. He can only help Brave Shave in Bull mode, and even then, it's basically as effective as Ramza's Shave, so not really. Not to mention, his EX doesn't have Brave hits at all, and it's not going to come up very quickly. The battery he gives off is also inflated, but outside of synergy, it's not necessarily bad. His auras are still good, and his healing is solid since it has good modifiers. Debuff immunity is a rare thing though, and since he doesn't use turns when using his skills, it was effective to stall the concentrating jelly. Being supported by these two blondies, we have Vayne. Vayne consistently gets free turns, which by himself is enough to outlast a jelly's concentration phase. As I mentioned earlier, a jelly in concentration can still be delayed by breaking, obviously including rebreaks, which means Vayne still has good enemy control via his S2 and his EX cast at EX plus 3 of 3. Both Ramza and Ignis provide good auras which aren't eaten up immediately by Vayne's free turns. Okay, yes, Ramza does apply buffs too, but they last decently long. With that, this Chaos fight should be covered. If you want to see my footage of this fight, I'll link it in the corner and in the description below. If you liked what you saw and want to see future fights, subscribe so they show up as they're made. If you have any suggestions or thoughts, drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.